So from now on, we would like to start Urban Strategy session hosted by Institute for Urban Strategies, Mori Memorial Foundation, entitled Tokyo 2035, Radiant World City. What will people want from the urban spaces of the future? So we would like to introduce to you 4 participants on the stages. From Tokyo City University, Advanced Research Laboratories, Graduate School of Integrative Science and Engineering, Professor Masaki Hamura. Writer and IT critic, Mr. Kazuhiro Obara. From WeWork Japan, Vice President, Sales and Marketing, Mr. Masami Takahashi. And the moderator will be Professor Emeritus of Meiji University, Special Professor from the Teikyo University, and from the Mori Memorial Foundation, we have Professor Hiroo Ichikawa. So from now on, we would like to ask Professor Ichikawa to take the microphone, please.
Konnichiwa. Thank you and good afternoon. In this session, designing the future of the cities is actually the ICF's theme from the very beginning. And we always look for a new idea that forms the future of cities. Both time and space have become more fluid, and urban activities can be conducted in various places. 2035 is just around the corner, about 15 years from now. So we would like to talk about the near future. And we have these wonderful panelists. They are quite young, at least from my perspective. They are probably the 3 leaders that will be leading Japan in the future. And I'm wearing a suit, but they are wearing jeans and jackets. So I think today's discussion will be more of an extension of their attire. So I may say some rigid things, but they'll be much more flexible. And we don't have a fixed scenario, so we will be going as things move around. So I would like to spend the first 10 minutes in my opening talk, and then there will be presentations from the 3 panelists, 10 minutes each, and then we'll move on to the panel discussion. At the beginning of the panel discussion, the 3 members will probably elaborate on their talks, and then we will have the discussion. And the topics of the discussion will be from the feedback and comments that we receive from the audience. And then lastly, we would like to have the closing talk. We would like to ask the panelists from what they consider as the near future cities, and I will also give my 2 cents. So from myself, let me look upon the Tokyo 2035. Actually, 2 years ago, we discussed the future of Tokyo. And I would like to start from the summary of the 2 year before discussion. It's a 1-minute video, so please enjoy.
ただいまは2000
So this was a video depicting the 2035 that we imagined. There are several technologies in that video. For example, drones, autonomous taxis, autonomous bus, various robots and wearables, and AR, augmented reality, and 3D printing. These technologies will evolve further and change our lifestyle. We can already see that coming. And by 2035, we will take these technologies for granted. So these were the 4 major functions that was depicted in that video. First is living, with whom, where, and how people will live. The second is the future of work. Why, where, and how will people work using those new technologies? And the future of mobility. How will people move around the city? Autonomous mobility using AI will become the norm. And future of entertainment. Virtual reality and the real world, the boundary will become more and more invisible. And how will people be entertained in the world of future? Living, work, mobility, and entertainment. The boundaries of these activities will be one of the key topics if you look at the future of cities. This is from the survey of social lifestyles. Of course, people sleep and work and study and so on. And so with regards to the total number of hours per day, how will people use their time? This is one of the premises when we consider the future. So living, mobility, entertainment, with regards to those 4 categories, based on this survey, if you overlap with the survey results, I think this is what we can see. And we would like to observe how this ratio changes over time. Otherwise, we cannot imagine the future cityscape. So this is simply the basis for the discussions for this session. So where we work, this is one of the hot topics today. And being able to work anywhere, for example, telework, is one of the becoming much more common these days. I am the chairman of the Telework Association, and it has taken a lot of time for this to be part of the Japanese culture. And also workation, working from vacation resorts, or becoming a YouTuber, doing what you love or your hobby as part of your work. And also working while being relaxed. For example, in the right-hand bottom, you see the office with napping space. Actually, offices are changing, and offices are not just a place to work, but it also has entertainment and napping or relaxation space. So how is the city function defined? Actually, in 1933, in the Athens Charter, Le Corbusier said that there are 4 functions to the city: dwelling, work, transport, and recreation. These are the 4 functions of cities, according to Corbusier. And of course, the 21st century cities encompass all of these 4 functions. So let me focus more on dwelling and work. In 1902, this actually goes back in time, a very famous Brit called Ebenezer Howard talked about the garden cities of tomorrow. He said that the people who live in Britain in the future could live in the town country rather than town and country. So the place to work and the place to relax was separate in the past. For example, people would relax in the suburbs and the people would work in the town. And this is what happened in Tokyo as well. People work in Tokyo center, but then people live outside in the suburbs. And this is what we see. For example, on the left-hand side, we see these suburbs with a lot of greens. But actually, times are changing to the right-hand side. The people aspire to live in tower mansions in the center of Teikyo near their workplace. So when we consider our cities, the place to work, the place to be active, is that going to be near their homes or in their homes, or would that be separate? These are the questions that I would like to pose to you. So before we start the panel discussion, I would like to ask two questions about lifestyle and the place to work. I think there was an explanation in the very beginning. Please use your smartphone and read this QR code with your camera. And then you will be able to answer the two questions on your smartphone. Do you have it? Everybody? Do you have it? Are you ready? Now, let me go to the first question. What is your ideal lifestyle balance between work, live, and play? It's a very simple question and simple answers. Do you want to clearly separate work, live, and play? Or a second answer, I don't intend to clearly delineate these three. We are receiving answers. I think more of you would like to separate the place to work, the place to live, and the place to play. And, you want it to be mixed, majority, 70% want it to be mixed, and 24%, 1/4, would like to separate. So maybe there's 3 times more people would like to have a mixture of the work, live, and play. This is actually a very important point in today's discussion. So cities are becoming more fluid, people's activities are becoming more fluid, and this will lead to today's panel discussion. So that was the first question that I wanted to ask. So let me go on to the second question. When you think about your future, whether it's the near future or longer future, maybe 20, 30 years down the road, when you think about your future, in what kind of city would you like to be working? Or where would you like to work? There are 4 types of answers. Number 1, working most of the time at home, so home office. Second, I would like to work from the office in principle, or this is the conventional way that we have worked. And number 3, do not have a permanent office, but have kind of a satellite work office, or maybe work from Starbucks. And the 4th one, mobile, do not have a permanent office and change working spaces depending on the situation. So, home office 70%, satellite office 70%. So the conventional work style is decreasing more and more. So perhaps 2/3 of you will be working from home in the future, 20, 30 years down the road. And the bottom one, no fixed workplace. Maybe you will ask Hamura-san later. This is very interesting. So in the future, sorry, I made a mistake. Not the home office, but the satellite office has the majority with the 75%. And the mobile type, about 1/4, and the conventional type 1/4, and the home office, about 10%. Satellite office is that you have an office, but you can also work from elsewhere. So mobile, satellite, these two kinds of work style have been enabled by the internet. Sorry, I made a mistake. So home office is a minority, only 10%. So I guess the audience don't want to work from home. Even though it is possible to work from home, and that's the concept of telework, I guess we were wrong, and people don't want to work from home. The reason why I posed these two questions was because we wanted to confirm how you think before we start the panel discussion. So without further ado, let's go on to the panel discussion. We have three panelists. First, from Mr. Masaki Hamura, LINE, Google, or SoftBank. He has worked with these companies in PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he has also been very active globally. And I would like to hear from his experience. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Hamura. Just very briefly, let me introduce myself. So today I have a presentation titled City 5.0 for the era of cities of individuals. And today at the Tokyo City University, we have the tripartite collaboration between industry, academia, and the government promoting the various Future City projects. I am the head of the Institute for Future City Studies. And as was introduced by Professor Ichikawa, up until March, there was a very big news 2 or 3 days ago, but I didn't know in March, but I was working with the LINE project, and then also I worked in Google and so on. And before that, I was studying under Professor Ichikawa about urban planning. So 20, 30 years after working in the business field, I am back to academia studying urban studies. But actually 50 years before that, Kisho Kurokawa, who is already deceased but a very renowned architect, said that the cities have developed in 5 phases. In the ancient Mesopotamia, there was the cities of gods. In ancient Greek to Roman period, there was the cities of kings. And then in the Renaissance Industrial Revolution era, there was the cities of merchants. And then Industrial Revolution, cities were for companies and enterprises. And in the 21st century, cities of individuals. So at that time, Kisho Kurokawa was only in his 20s and 30s, but then he wrote this book depicting the history of cities. In 1965, only TVs were available in terms of the mass media. But he projected that with the spread of mass media, individuals would be gaining more power. And also in his study of city architecture, the so-called capitalistic economies. So Le Corbusier, he was living in the era of the cities of enterprises. And he said that cities are comprised of the 4 functions, dwelling, work, mobility, and entertainment. And so enterprises were there for the time, and people used to work for like 12 hours per day, but then people's rights were enhanced, and then working hours became 8 hours basically, and then so people have more time to entertainment, and so on. So cities became the places of individuals more and more in the 21st century. And in that sense, I believe that cities of individuals, meaning the City 5.0, will be starting. And I am currently writing a book based on this topic. And I talked about media and cities, but Le Corbusier also said a similar point. Marshall McLuhan, who is a sociologist, and he studied media. And in the 1960s, he said that technology or media is an extension of human functions and senses. So this is from my book. So this is the human body, and the humans ingest food and then convert that into energy, and then that allows the brain to function, and the humans smell with the nose and hear with the ear, and so those are the senses of humans. And then humans use their hands to create and manufacture. Those are the mobility. So in that sense, technology will be able to enhance the functions for information, energy, and mobility. And the ultimate evolution or the ultimate expansion of the human function, I think, is cities. And of course, the cities are constantly evolving and changing with the evolution of technology. So, according to Professor Kurokawa, the reason why cities were born was for trade. And for trade, you need to keep records and accounts. And so the concept of accounting was born as this innovation of cities, as well as the alphabet or letters. So names, which is where and how many was sold and so on. So accounting and letters were born. Actually, accounting came before letters. So this is taking parts of the function of the brain, because if there was no such a recording, then people had to remember everything. So this was information expansion, the information aspect. But in this era, there were gods and there were temples and holy shrines, and even the people in authority lived in the buildings attached to these holy temples. So in these cities, ancient cities, there was the temple in the middle of the city, and then everybody else was rather flat. But then power authority became part of the holy shrines, and then the shrines itself lost the substance and became a mere facade. So the era of kings or cities of kings arose. And then in this age, the alphabets and the codex system arose. In the past, letters simply were written, but alphabets have a space between these words, these vocabularies. But in the past, there was no space in between, so it had to be orally read out. Otherwise, it could not be interpreted. But because of the invention of the alphabet, people could more easily understand what was written. And also with the codex, these are like books, like pamphlets with sheets of paper attached. And this makes it easy to carry around and transport. And so the information could be expanded. So alphabet codex, this expanded the information spread. And for the cities of kings, palaces and castles, and castle walls became the center. And when there are kings, actually the bourgeois or the middle class arose. And of course, there needs to be a public space to keep these middle class people happy, and so there needs to be like a plaza or a square for people to come together. So in Greece there was, or Athens, there was the agora for the citizens could come together. And during the era of the merchants, the letterpress printing arose, and so information could be copied and further spread around. And so commerce and trade expanded more and more. And so this led to economic growth and the budding of democracy. So what I'm trying to say is that technology built the soil to change the social structure, and then this changed the economic structure and changed the citizens' lives. And then came the cities of enterprises and companies, and the energy and mobility and information had a large impact on this industrial revolution. So rows and high-rises constitute these cities of enterprises, becoming more efficient. And borderless mass urbanization occurred. So in the past, there used to be these walls around castle cities, but no longer. And then many challenges occurred, like pollution, so purpose-based area classification was promoted. So the ultimate goal was the economic rationality and efficiency, and cities became more mechanized for the purpose of mobility. And in this trend, we are entering in this new era of cities for individuals, and here we see a fusion of cyber and physical mobility and energy also coming into play. So you have probably seen this picture. In just a matter of few years, this is the Roman Pope making an announcement. The announcement of the Roman Pope. Can you see the difference? This is the change by a mobile. And in a similar vein, every individual has a computer inside his or her pocket. And on March 11, 2011, there was a great East Japan earthquake. And at that time, this is the Twitter message sent by Japanese people and how it is being retweeted and expanding all over the world. So Japanese people tweeting about the earthquake doesn't think that this information is actually reaching some remote town in Chile. But now, not just these individual tweets, but IoT is expanding its flow even further. So I talked about technology and digital transformation. So you obtain the data, and the data is analyzed, and then a service is provided based on data, whether it's MaaS or something as a service. And so we talk about this cycle often, but actually, when you run this cycle and make it sustainable, then there needs to be the human being. We have to consider the human beings in this cycle. And actually, you need the financing to create this cycle. And from the era of enterprise to individuals, such a financing scheme needs to be changed as well. Actually, these things are not yet considered in depth. And also, if we do these developments and we continue to destruct the ecosystem, then that's a problem as well. So we have to be able to rejuvenate or rebuild the ecosystem of our Earth. So in the past, we have just been looking at the data analytics, data obtaining and analyzing, and solution design. But left-hand side has been ignored. Of course, we talk about human-centric design, but we haven't really talked about the fundamental aspect of human-centric design. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I would like to ask you questions later on at the panel discussion. So next is Mr. Kazuhiro Obara. I have mentioned earlier, where do you live now? Well, I think it is only 50 hours that you're spending this time in Tokyo only. So where are you? So his title is Wherever, Whomever You Want to Work With, You Can. Yes, my name is Obara. Nice to see you. Well, this is a really good thing that you hear about today so far. So working, living, everything is being very fluid or liquidity. So this is a strange person's story. Let me just introduce myself. I myself think that technology is something that will bring out humanity, and that is era where we can have our self-realization. Why is this self-introduction possible? I am involved, engaged in 13 types of occupation and engaged in 42 projects. I can't really explain myself what I'm doing. So fortunately with iMode, the launch, when only the member was 5, I started that. Do you know you're doing emoji? Are you using emoji? Yes, I have started that and launched that. So for your life, in order to make it and enable it in your daily life, I came to launch those IT platform. I had launched Android in Google after Mr. Hamura. So that's what I've been doing so far. So where am I and where do I live? 50 hours in Tokyo, and then I flew from Bali to San Francisco. I came to Japan and staying for 50 hours, and then I will go to India, New Delhi, and Shanghai, and then go back to Bali. So that's how I live. So on an ordinary basis, how do I work then? Well, this is myself. And this type of people visit your company. So where am I located actually, physically? As was mentioned earlier, I mainly live in Singapore and island of Bali. My daughter is going to the school in Bali, and I work there. Why am I comfortable with Bali? Is that this is my house in Bali, 2 bedrooms. We have a small private pool, and 3 days a week we have the housekeeper coming, and you go to the central Ubud within 5 minutes walk. And can you think how much the rent? It's only 100,000 yen per month. Internet and technology is making the price competition breakage. So with LCC, Bali, and Tokyo, it's only 30,000 yen for return trip. So if you visit once a month in Tokyo, it's only cost you 140,000 yen as living in Bali and working in Tokyo. So why do you live in cities then? So living like myself, I call myself robo worker or resort worker, so to speak, that there is no necessity to live in cities. Then why don't you live in a place and hop around where you can get the inspiration? So I think Mr. Takahashi is going to tell the story of WeWork. So if you have a space to work in each of the communities and cities, then you can live in a place where you can get the inspiration out of it, hop around. Of course, when you're working, you need members. In that sense, in reality, this is Roppongi Hills. There is a company called Fringy. I have been an executive director of this listed company until last year. So when I had to communicate with the employees, then I would communicate with this robot through the internet services. I talked with my employees, are you all right these days, and so forth. And how am I doing? Because this is the school garden of my daughter, and I'm engaged with those employees, with those fringe employees through this garden at a hotel nearby the pool, using internet and doing the communication and making presentation like this. I think world is changing, and because of that, and thanks to that, people say and people are very much interested in how I live. So METI has asked me to become one of their council members, and they said that you can live in Bali. You should your existence should be virtual. I became an advisor to this institute as well. So I think remote working is very now flexible or promoted by even the government. And now, this year, I flew 87 times or 87 flights this year. There is a space and a location where there is a significance of being really at this place, and I'm linked to it. People say innovation is required in the changing era. According to Schumpeter, this is the communication of a moment. So this is a new connection when there is a necessity. So innovation is enable us that. So why don't you just participate in a Slash or Tech or My Combinator and so forth? So Vietnam, Thailand, I think those nations, they have good things and new things are born in those places. So I just hop around those places and find interesting. And I just tell Mr. Hamura interesting thing, Mr. Takahashi, I found something interesting through the internet. So this is, I think, you think I'm a strange person because I'm a stranger, I can do it. No, it's not just myself. So far, I think living and working and studying, I think that was bonded by this way you work and the way you study. But through internet, you can, I think, live wherever you want and work wherever you want. And the important thing is study. Children, you have to go to let them go to school. But that's changing. This is a school where my daughter goes. This is called Green School. It's taken from my drone. And it's made of bamboo, 3-story high, no wall, the classes. But the student there comes from around 40 countries around the world, 400, including the kindergarten children. So why in Bali can we do this study and school? Because of this internet, thanks to it, this is better to be done through YouTube. We have many interesting teachers that is enabling these studies through YouTube. You can learn YouTube at home and at school based on what you have learned by preserving the nice nature in Bali, and we have so many visitors. Try to have discussion how to preserve and conserve this beautiful environment in Bali. That's more humane. Mr. Salman Khan said that school is inhumane place. So maybe this is an inhumane place because we have so many places, so many audiences, but I'm the only one speaking. This is inhumane. I know that there are some people that know my story, but you cannot skip my story, but you can skip it during the YouTube. So studying, you can do it by yourself through looking or watching YouTube. And what you don't know and you want to ask questions, ask them at school. That's the only thing. That's more humane, I think, life. Technology is inhumane for you, but I think technology should be used to change your life more humane lifestyle. So 4 years ago, I've changed my lifestyle. But what happened 4 years ago? The Facebook population went off 1.5 billion, and there are 2.3 billion people using Facebook. I think the 1 billion, the largest population is China. I think if you can connect to Facebook and Google's, then I think no matter where you live, you can be connected to everywhere. I think this is difficult to be felt in Japan. Have you ever used Airbnb and Uber? Raise your hand. Well, Airbnb and Ubers. Airbnb, people said it's replacement hotel. People say Uber is replacement of taxi. No. For example, my friend, there is a person who lives in Bali and Singapore. In Bali, he uses Airbnb, lending his houses in Singapore and vice versa. He owns 2 houses. So that means the other one who is not being used is making money out of Airbnb. So if you have 4 locations or 5 locations through Airbnb, I think that makes yield of 20% increase in your profit. That means you don't have to pay for anything. So holding is, I think, accelerating the usage, and that makes money for you. So likewise, internet is, I think, should be used so that you can correct the distortion of the society. So I mentioned humanize. So I think it will make you more humane. Jack Dorsey, he's a founder of Twitter, and he's in charge of payment. And payment, why, is inhumane activity. I think face-to-face is happening and register counter, but just having just payment. Maybe if you're having a face-to-face services there, maybe you can request your customer recommending a new flavor or a new bean that is the nice coffee. So that is more humane service, I believe. So through internet and technology, you can have more humane warmness of the human being, drawn and getting together. So what, based on that, how can where do we want to live, and how do we want to transfer ourselves? I think you have to think about that, and thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. It was quite insightful, so I will come back to the point that I would like to follow up. So the next presenter is Mr. Takahashi, Masami Takahashi. He is working as a vice president in charge of the sales and marketing of WeWork Japan. So he is the leader of the business deployment in Japan. The floor is yours. I'm Takahashi of WeWork. My presentation is about a bit more serious. I belong to a company engaging in work, but what we do is something related to the various the stories being shared in advance, work style. So how to change in a work style from the environment, or what to find out the significance in working. So then that's the area of my interest. So started working at WeWork. But prior to that, I was the representative of Uber Japan, thinking about the future of mobility. But now my focus is more inclined to the work style. Let me make a brief introduction of WeWork. 2010 was the year of establishment of WeWork, and the community-focused workspaces are offered around the world. Community is a quite important keyword. Indeed, technology and AI will be evolved going forward, so the human-to-human interface and connection, we see a value and possibilities. So across the different industries, the various local governments and ventures and the large corporations are gathering together in one place to create something new, or to create a new innovation. Such an environment is offered by the company. It's a mission-driven company, so the global mission is to create a world where people work to make life, not just a living. That is the global slogan of the global WeWork. And just to give you a snapshot of what we do at WeWork in 4 domains, offering workspace is a physical workspace. We've got about 600 locations available around the world, offering open workspace with light. In such a space, we offer environment for work. The second domain is community, as has been mentioned, offering the forum for having exchange to many different kinds of the stakeholders, including companies, local governments, and so forth. Normally, those are the people working in a remote place, but we offer a matching forum to create something new. Third, services. Engaging in work, other than concentrating on work and office operation or moving in and out, those are the cumbersome works. So reduce those extra works in order for the people to concentrate more on the core areas. So the peripheral services are offered by WeWork. And the fourth, technology. As has been mentioned, the community, the technology relates to community. So the physical basis, we've got 600 in altogether. Those who are working in the same workplace, the approximate membership is about 1,000 to 2,000. So through technology, we link people working in a different sites. So through those 4 domains, we try to create an environment linking workspace engagement and everything inclusive to offer so-called an open innovation platform. Or sometimes we provide an opportunity for individuals to encounter to create something new. At present, as has been said, we've got the 600 locations altogether, and the number of the cities being deployed is 122. So if you visit somewhere for your business trip, then major cities do have WeWork offices. And instead of coming to the cafe to check emails, you can come to the WeWork office everywhere in Paris and London and Shanghai. You can stop by at WeWork office. And at each site, the community managers are assigned. So by having a connection with the respective community, the site managers, then you can receive a concierge type of service. Or the receiving some sort of a referral from the community managers. Those are the benefits. Now I would like to focus on Japan. The February last year, Roppongi Ichome site was opened. So closer to 2 years, we've been having a business operation. So in order to stimulate the work style reform, that is now one of the key mission of the WeWork Japan. So ranging from the startups to large enterprises, we connect entities. That is one of the aims, and the number of sites. We open 1 to 2 bases per month. So in total, 23 have been opened. Besides in Tokyo, we've got 5 more cities. We've got footprints. So that these are the sites opened this year besides Tokyo, Fukuoka, Nagoya, Osaka, Yokohama, and Kobe. This month, just newly opened in Kobe. So the major cities are the key areas. But if you become a member of the WeWork, then you can make use of the various services. And in 2020, those are the upcoming newly opened offices. So through the increasing number of memberships or having a greater number of locations, then it will provide a better opportunity to encounter with many other people. And if having more sites available, then you can make use of those sites as like your campuses. Then what are the companies and having a membership of WeWork Japan? This is just some of the examples in the ventures with the single-digit employees to the large enterprises that everybody knows, as well as local governments, including Shizuoka cities, are having membership. So it provides a unique opportunity to meet with different kinds of people. And from members, now those are the voices raised. So since the environment is in a different, so the approach towards work it has been changing, and such comments have been shared so far. At the present, on a global basis, we conduct survey on an annual basis. So in Japan, we started conducting the first survey, and the one remarkable result is that closer to 80% of the respondents responded that the business growth has been sensed ever since joining the WeWork. So some sort of change and impact was have been derived through the joining the WeWork community. So this is just one example. So the one practical example of having a linkage between the payang, the fried noodle, and coca and collaboration. So by nature, they are engaging in totally different businesses, but by encountering physically in a single office, so that it offered an opportunity to create a collaborative project. Then why we do that in Japan, personally? When I look at this figure, I was quite surprised about that this is a survey conducted by Gallup in 139 countries, and how much reward that you can feel engaging in work. Just 126 people responded. Oh, excuse me. And the 130 in the second in the place was the ranking of Japan of the sensing reward in out of the 139 countries. So only 126 people felt the reward engaging in work. So that was a quite surprising result. But from the different perspective, now there are the huge potentials for the greater improvement for the people to engage in work with higher motivations. The theme is a collaboration. this is another survey result. The people and the communicate and the people connect and the people entertain through those activities. Then people get ideas and inspirations. So the future of the work style will be and something that we can see, and we would envisage the work style in the 2035. Our formula is by improving the work environment so that it improves the level of motivation of the employees, and this will lead to the higher productivity. So we want to assist that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So 3 very diverse presentations. How can I tie that together? So in spite of the very short 10-minute presentation, you have given a lot of input, but maybe you would like to elaborate a bit. So let me ask several questions. So first to Hamura-san. So we often use the word society 5.0, but you intentionally use the word city 5.0. I myself don't really understand what the society 5.0 means, but anyways, there was a pie chart. And on the right-hand side, you talked about data analytics, but on the left-hand side, the human-centric aspect was being ignored or not being considered sufficiently. And I have a similar feeling. No matter how much the technology evolves, if human beings are not happier and more motivated, then we get to nowhere. And that is why we have chosen this topic today, and I would like you to elaborate, perhaps. I think because Obara-san and I have been engaged in similar careers, we are both interested in technology, and I think more people are citizens of the Facebook world or maybe Line world in Japan. And improving human lives using technology, it has been my focus. Is there anybody from Lawson? I'm not sure. You wouldn't say if there's nobody here? So there's like Amazon Go and an unmanned Lawson store. Both are using technology, but Jack Dorsey's shopping experience was focusing on a better shopping experience for humans, and this is the Amazon Go. In the past, people would line up to buy something at the cash register. Lawson is simply reducing the cost for having these cash registers and having these staff to be the cashier. Because convenience stores are suffering from labor shortage and so on. So Lawson store, the customers pay using the scanning technology themselves. Has anybody been to Amazon Go? Quite a lot of people. Thank you very much. It felt really strange, no? It felt like when I was a middle schooler, because it feels like I'm shoplifting. I'm not paying anything. It's a very different experience. So Amazon Go removed the cashier, the payment itself. Rather than forcing the customer to do it, actually, it removed the process itself. Actually, there could be people inside the Amazon Go, for example, or somebody making sandwiches, and it's interactive. There's conversations with the shop people, but the cash register itself is no longer there. So I think it's how you use the technology for people. So whether humans are at the center of technology or not, yes. So whether it's human-centric or just technology-driven. Yes, let me ask Obara-san next. So you seem to have no headaches. You seem happy working anywhere in this world. But 4 years ago, from 1.5 to 2.3 billion, that was the growth of the Facebook residents. So you felt that you could live anywhere in this world. So before that, what did you think? Before you entered this lifestyle, what was your thinking? Actually, I am a project worker, so I launched iMode and Android. So I wanted to support changes to the way people live. So by working in large enterprises and being a member of a large enterprise, I think was the only way to have a huge impact on people's lifestyles. So 80% of time would be spent in working for these large companies, and then 20% of the time was left for example, doing the TED audition. I did that for one time. And so it's like 80% business, 20% private. But now it's like 90% private and 10% business or public. But still, I can, for example, provide assistance to governments. And as a volunteer, I did the launch. I launched some international conference in Vietnam. So while I am working just as an individual, I can still support people's changes. I think people work in organizations, and I think people feel concerned about leaving that larger organization. Did you ever feel scared about leaving a large corporation? Actually, there's no risk to my adventure. Because the reason why people get salary is because the more unique or rare you are, the higher income you can enjoy. So if I try out this lifestyle, it's a challenge that nobody else is doing. So somebody will appreciate this unique challenge, and somebody it will pick me up. So I wasn't concerned at all about the risk. And secondly, I think more than you think, ordinary, everyday work can be done remotely. I think when you think about telework or remote work, you would think programmers or people who are in the creative industry. I think many of you are white-collar workers, but out of what you do, out of your work, how much of your work needs to be done at the workplace, at the office? I think that a majority of what white-collar workers do can be done remotely via remote meetings. And I think most of your work can be done remotely. Then you can work outside, and you can be a member of a large corporation, but still work remote and with no risk whatsoever. I have led a similar life in that sense. We were working in Google for a short period of time together, but then we diverged our paths. So the word gig economy, I think everybody knows. So it's like a gig, right? And so when a band plays a gig, it's like a project worker, or just for that performance, people come together, and then after the project is done, people disperse. So I myself am called to participate because there is this problem and you want to resolve this problem. So I think about what I can bring to the picture, and I can contribute, and then I participate. So if I was working in a company, I know that I can have more leverage and I can build a bigger impact. But even if I work as an individual, I can still contribute. And then Obara-san's lifestyle, I think, is very effective in that sense. But a gig economy is going to be bigger going forward. You don't have to work for a large corporation to be impactful. You can get financing even if you're not a company. So there could be financing for private individuals. Maybe you can be part of an organization. You don't have to be part of an organization. I think that we are still the front runners, so we look very strange at the moment, but I think we're just leading this change. I will be asking Takahashi-san later, but you can see this QR code. So please feel free to send your questions, send your comments as you listen to our conversation. So next, let me continue this discussion. So Obara-san and Hamura-san, you can be proactive and you can act freely. But I think WeWork is a way to show people that this can be done. It's providing a space where people can try out new things. At the beginning of the year, I visited WeWork, the New York headquarters, and it was very impressive. Everything is there in that WeWork office. For example, there could be, you can bring children to the workplace, and there's a play bin there as well. So, and I found via your today's presentation as well that it's a place for collaboration, and 80% of the people felt satisfied that this has a positive impact on their business. And I think this is because of this collaboration. So could you elaborate on that? Yes, being in the same space, completely diverse sets of people sharing the same space is very impactful. When we started this business, we were told that Japanese people are very shy, so we don't have the happy hour culture of New York, diverse people coming together and collaborating. That's not possible in Japan. That's what we were told. But something that we are doing is, it's very analog, but you can drink as much beer as you want in our office. So people walk around with beer in their hands. And when you have a glass of beer, then people's sentiments or feelings change, and you can step outside your comfort zone. It can be coffee as well. Anyways, it's a different culture, or you can be more expressive, and you can show yourself. Showing yourself was rather a taboo in Japan, but it's a more of an open environment. And rather than being my name is something from this company, you can be, I am me, and this is what I do. So you can kind of reverse that relationship.
So this is rather a human location. So we have a community manager in each location of WeWork. He or she's main work is the members know them well. And this is not just how they work, no, how they spend their leisure times and so forth, including that, what's the environment and what is the pursuance of those people. And then knowing that this person can refer someone or introduce someone or ask some events at WeWork. So there are cases where we are positive, linking people, or maybe creating an environment where they can get together naturally. So it's not just the place where you're having, it's an environment, right? Yes. We are linking people and people, corporate and corporate, but there are limits to it. So we have some 3 or 4 people who are making these connections. And members of 1,000, 2,000, if you go link them each by each, there are limitations. So we are making a location where those people want to gather, like hosting an event and so forth. So we call it community space. We have a place, so we want everybody to come to this community space. I think a workplace where we can create innovation, easy to create innovation, that's the point. Google have a projector with Soteris, and they're making an analysis of how people work. There are 2 things. So you mentioned about beer. Google says is a free lunch. And micro kitchen, so to speak. In each office there is a space of hub where they can enjoy some refreshments. What's the purpose of the space? This was created by coincidence, or we call it casual collision. That means that those people in the different departments where they have no where to speak each other can get together in those hub spaces and create a new idea. So on a daily basis, there is a non-daily communication space where you can communicate with a person who you never would communicate or else. So community, the most important thing is that the stability, mental stability. That means that innovation is something you create new things. So maybe you want to talk to the person next to you, your new ideas. Can you expose your risks? So in a certain community with this red mufflers, you're not laughed at. So what can you speak out? So we need to create such community, and that's the environment. So we work in such a way. It's very good. Yes, the sense of security. Yes, community. Those people who never had a point of contact can have a contact, being becoming a member of WeWork. So if you have something to share, you can go into the same event, enjoy the same beer and coffee. So it's just a little thing, but I think you can overcome the mental barriers, and then you can create a community. Yes, in your smartphones, there are questions raised by you, and there is also like buttons or like. And if you have pressed them for good questions, there is a ranking of the questions that get higher when you get more likes. So maybe I have to ask some questions here. So of course you're working in various locations, and it's not easy for you to go to new places to drink teas. How do you let people form the community? Other than events on a daily basis, how is that environment created? How is this community created? What is the mechanism? Do you have anything? Yes, we want people to come out more, especially in Japan. The large corporation employees, they go to the office, they just sit at the desk, they do meetings, otherwise, other than PC working and so forth. So they have this mindset. So we wanted them to come out of their office. So we thought that we wanted to shift their mind, transfer their minds. Is there a good technology? No. I think people needs to do something. I think you have to be acquainted with those people. The community manager of us, they are at the reception desk, so they can, I think, work as things. For example, they ask someone to come and pick their mails and so forth. So if you have acquainted with people, you get friends. I think you get more friendly. And then someone will ask you, do you want to meet someone? Yes, then that's a start, you know. So Marunouchi was an example. So that company became the host of an event, not an official event, but a small event. Maybe we'll serve you free pizza and supporting us. And then we will have new people coming in and joining this event. So this human-human connection forming is an important thing. It is not a real science here. It is just changing your mindset and just reducing the mental barrier in your mind. So I think we're focusing on that kind of activities. The collaboration, of course, is important, but community is important. Creating community is very important. I think in the past we had a society and based on land. So they formed a community based on land, where you live and so forth. But I think having a community and letting a place where people can get together is very important. I think people were waiting for such spaces to rise, I guess. There is another question here, and may I read out this question? It's a very difficult one at the top, very top. It's just turned, this one. Wherever you are, it's where you can work. Then why there are so many people in Silicon Valley? Well, yes, for the time being, it has been statistically corrected. IBM said remote work is inefficient. So IBM said that inefficient, let remote work be gone. And Google Work said a small group, shotgun-like, concentrated, you have the output. Then I think in that sense, face-to-face is more efficient. So people should get together in one place and live together. But especially in Silicon Valley, you have the shotgun type of projects like laser guns. An example would be the largest ventures created by accelerator program called Y Combinator. So Y Combinator, you apply for that and you get through that from YCon office. You are asked to be living within 2 kilometers of that Y combination office, because there would be nice matching, new matchings, and you'll be called at any time. So then you can create new things. So I think density, if you want to create new things, is important. I think maybe we are pulled by Mr. Obara's story. Yes, he said remote working is very good, but basically face-to-face is very important. And city, why it was created, I was not able to go to that far, but I think in fusion of the people and people, you get new idea, and very complex. We have, if you make the Google searches, it will just pop out. But face-to-face, new connection, new combination. In the past, we had a cigarette room where we had so many people gathering from different departments and getting new ideas off from it. I think that's WeWork's how it is making a mechanism. And the city is likewise. So people are getting together. And Silicon Valley is the same place where people are dense face-to-face and getting new ideas off. So I think the question has been pulled too much by Mr. Obara. And we admire, we respect, we want to live like you, Mr. Obara. But in a certain place where you stick to it, there is no new connection, no new ideas coming out. And if you have one large office by the corporation, yes, I just joined Mizuho Fuji Research Institute. You have the building. And 4 years later, I said, am I coming to this place as long more? And I just quit that company. But I think that is the form. So that's very important, face-to-face. So that's a building unit, and you have the combination, and that's WeWork. And city, I think it was created originally from that. So that kind of question, I think, yes, is a bit tricky, I guess. Yes, I think cities are hashtags, so to speak. If you're on Instagram, you have the hashtag that you want to use. And in internet, if you use hashtags, you can see the persons you like, the uploads, and that's for WeWork, it's hashtag work. Silicon Valley, for IT people, this is a hashtag, and New York has their own hashtags. So that's it.
Yes, and in the same street, we've got the multiple offices. Moving on to the next question. It's a little bit complicated question. The second one. Today, the future of the city is the main theme for discussion. So, however, so the population is the dense, the most. So the metropolitan area, inclusive of Tokyo. But if there are many people who are moving outside of the metropolitan area, then the metropolis may turn into the slums in the future. So can we leave the situation as it is? Now, what is your perspective, Obara-san? I mean, what sort of a hashtag would you assign to? I mean, that's the thing. So, for example, the rebranding of the cities, the Portland is quite a famous example in the U.S. The city's mission statement has been defined by involving the consultation service. So they define their own identity. Why the deciding hashtag is good is because the people around you are sharing the same value, so that the city itself is turned into like a place like a WeWork. So what sort of a hashtag that Tokyo would like to have? That is a matter. So the daytime population and nighttime population is different. I think this is a common term being referred to. But people related to is not just those daytime and nighttime populations, but the people like Obara-san, the people hopping around in one place to another. So that those are the third kind of people. Or the inbound tourists coming to Shibuya just for stopping by. So those are the third category type of people, nor classified as a daytime population or nighttime population. So the city population definition itself has been changing. But they are physical beings, and so of course there needs to be a place for sleep. So how many beds the city can prepare is probably the matter for the cities. So in the urban areas, if the city policy fails to cover thoroughly, then it may end up with the failure in operating cities going forward. Or an easier to understand way of describing it is listening to music. Now the music is available in everywhere, and the number of concerts has been doubled at the same time. So enhance the connectivity offers the something. It attracts more the people to come to the place that can be shared momentarily. So, for example, someone working at WeWork, then I'm having a beer, and this is probably the SNS, the message posted in the cyberspace. So, the unique momentarily an experience would have the greater value. So, how to design to offer such places would be another impacting factor. So how would you think about the family relationship of the child care and elderly care as well as in the family care? Of course, and it takes time to engage in the elderly care for certain volume of time. Then this is probably another induced the kind of the question impacted by the previous presentation. When we think about entire life, it's not, we should call it the work-life balance, but work-life innovation or something like that. But the holistic view is becoming more important. So, for example, in WeWork, long-term nursing care facilities should be accommodated, but things are not that much simple. So the site may not be necessarily be in a single place. Then what is the correct way of work shall be defined going forward. So inclusive of that in the perspective, probably the people would choose where to work at. So that depending on the life stage changes, then the such needs change as well. So my point is as follows. First, the content or brand image of the company, so that those are the decisive factors in coming to the conclusion of where to work at. And what can be offered from the company are the important factor for people to decide where to work at in the future. So WeWork, it's okay to bring small children, right? But when the children is more getting older, then the condition or the environment should be different. So for the infants, milking room is available, but the people working there are individuals or those who are belonging to the enterprises. So the enterprise shall have a mechanism in accommodating such conditions. For example, when a child is having a fever, then acute medicine, medical care facility should be ready. So the highly flexible companies offering the wide variety of welfare services will be at the company where to work at probably for the people. But conversely, we can think from the different angles as well. So the co-working space allows the people to mingle with many different kinds of people and in many different kinds of environment. So online university has been established and it's been a decade already. So the 10 times higher the number of the students that have been enrolled into the online university. The part of the reason is because someone has been fully engaged in the long-term nursing care and had the little opportunity to study art. That was one of the reasons why they enrolled in the cyber university. Or depending on the individual availability, the people can work just 4 hours a day or the 12 hours a day. Then the flexible adjustment can be made for the working hours. So for those who are engaged in more time in child care, then the less working hours shall be set. So even staying in a single place, but people can stay connected with many different kinds of people and work. That's another good point of working in remote conditions. But when I have a conversation with Obara-san, then I feel like there shouldn't be any concern. So the long-term nursing care, they shall be undertaken by the family members themselves, or isn't there any other alternatives? That's another discussion. So in some sense, so the people spend the certain amount of money, and those are the deposited, and in something happened, and the individual events occurs, then those deposited money or the accumulated money can be used for its own use. So this may offer the different kinds of the lifestyle. In the past, humans have been able to do in a small community, but through the utilization of technology, then the same condition can be offered for the wider group of people, which is more humane, so to speak. All right, now that links to the next topic. The smart city using technology. That can offer. Making use of technology. Then, what would be the purpose of the making use of technology? So, in the Roppongi, now what the sort of value that what is the purpose? Of making use of technology. Without such a definition, then the answer should be no. So for what purpose people gather together, the why is the most important part. Japan's weakness is that there are many tech companies, but falling behind from the international companies is this aspect, the absence of purpose.
So WeWork is exactly that. WeWork is not a technology company, really, although it looks like a technology company. So technology is replacing what was done manually, but that's not it, because Amazon Go provides something different. Because we just try to replace manual work with technology, then people's mindset will not really change. But we really have to use technology to change people's lifestyles. And I think that's what's wrong with the Society 5.0. But Roppongi Hills has living, working, entertainment, fusing these different aspects. And so I think that there is such a philosophy behind the development of Roppongi Hills, for example. So you are speaking from different perspectives. In Tokyo, large-scale urban development is going on everywhere, and each area in Tokyo has different characteristics. So we have to look at the parts, and we have to look at the whole. And so when you consider urban development, whether it's just one part of Tokyo or the entire part of Tokyo, do you think that Tokyo is going in the right direction? Do you think that the people are becoming happier? Do you think Tokyo is becoming more competitive? When you look at this very active urban development, what do you think? I go back to the hashtag discussion, hashtag Ebisu or hashtag Shimokitazawa. So why do we put that hashtag there? We have to consider the why or the what behind the hashtag. And that is where the narrative of the city is built. Why people are coming there, what the people are seeking, or the historical background. And I think that needs to be at the basis of urban development. I think that should be the direction of urban development. I agree. And what I also think is, we talked about the 100-year life, and we discussed that in yesterday's panel. So when people live 100 years, in Linda Grattan's book, she said that there are 3 assets that will be crucial. So if people live for 100 years, then many people will be working as professional. So how to increase your own productivity, how to develop your own assets, that's one. And secondly, there will be continuous new technology and products, and everything becomes commodity. So how do you continue to transform yourself? So the assets to change and transform, that's the second important point. But when you continue to change and transform, there's also fatigue. So you need to have the energy. So productivity, transformation, and energy. These are the 3 assets that will be necessary for the future of human beings. And what are the assets that cities can provide? I think it's important. Silicon Valley, I think, is built on the transformation asset. And on the other hand, Ubud in Bali is the city to give me more energy. So in that sense, what is the hashtag? What is the asset that the city delivers? I think if the city becomes more mission-driven, it will be more interesting. WeWork, I think, has different roles or characteristics depending on the city, right? I'm sure that there is a uniqueness to Japan as well. You have been working in global companies, but now on a country level, you have a mission. I have been working in many global companies, but there's no single mission for Japan. But WeWork has a mission for Japan, as well as characteristics for different cities, like Roppongi. We don't have a building-based mission, but when we look at different locations, then different kinds of companies or different kinds of industries are gathered. Some customers want to work in places with similar industries. Some people want to work in WeWork with a different, diverse backgrounds. For example, in the US, there is a WeWork with a food industry concentration. And when we develop mission statements and value proposition, I think that's very important for cities as well. But with that as a basis, the application, what comes on top, needs to be converted and changed in a very flexible manner, like the new technology. So I think it should be in 2 stages. The basis should be the value proposition and the application to be more flexible. Another question that we received is what is the city that you want to live in, or which city are you focusing on the most these days globally? So starting from you, Takahashi-san, if you were to live or work, which city do you think is your favorite? Or maybe just an area. It doesn't have to be one city. I work in about 1/3 of my life in Japan, and 1/3 in US, 1/3 in Europe. And I think it depends on the life stage. When I was small, I really enjoyed Europe. So much green, so much nature. But I don't think I would enjoy living in Geneva so much at my age. I might find it boring. So given my life stage, I want to live near my family. That's more important to me. So my family, my parents live in Tokyo. My wife's parents live in Tokyo, so I prefer to live in Tokyo. So if I can live anywhere, I would live in Berlin. I say I can live anywhere in the world, but the world is, it's unfortunate, but the world is becoming more separate. It's becoming more closed off in that sense. And as Hamura-san said, when when tragedy occurs, like world wars, the world changes its mode. So in that sense, I think that Berlin is the country or the city that is trying to keep the community together, because it used to be segregated between East and West. So I think I would love to live in Berlin. So I agree that it depends on the life stage, the family, and what is your focus at the moment. So, but personally, I was born in Fukuoka, but I hated Fukuoka, and now I'm in Tokyo. But I actually love Fukuoka now. In the past I would rent the condominium that was in Roppongi before the Roppongi Hills was built. And I love to live in Roppongi, but I'm no longer interested. So why Fukuoka? So Fukuoka is a compact city. And now with the Japan-US, Japan-South Korea friction, it's not so much, but it has a lot of Asian citizens. It's like a melting pot, and food is delicious. So in my current state, I love Fukuoka. I would love to live in Fukuoka. Thank you. So when we're talking about our favorite cities, I think it connects to the next question. So with remote work, I think we will have more free time on our hands. Maybe I'm wrong, but we will have more leisure time or more free time. Then where would people want to go or visit in your leisure? Of course, maybe you don't have more free time with a remote work, or it depends on the period. But if you were to spend your time off, where would you like to go? Maybe places with a lot of nature or other cities. I do a lot of surfing. I prefer nature rather than cities. But of course, I would go to museums, or I would watch a movie, or that's a difficult question. I don't think the concept of leisure exists for me. Maybe. I don't really like the word leisure, at least in the Japanese translation. Leisure in Japanese means time, unnecessary time in Japanese. And so leisure is not an obligation. It's just a matter of choice. So you're free. You're able to spend your time freely. But I work with freedom. I have a lot of free time in that sense. So, Hamura-san, you talked about doing what you love as work. So if you love what you do, there's no division between work and play. So in English, you also say that I'm bored. I have so much time on my hand. I'm bored. But I'm never bored in that sense. So that's why maybe I don't understand this. So maybe recreation or entertainment is more positive. So, but for me, work is in itself recreation. It's been that way for 30, 40 years. So I hate the word work-life balance. I think it should be life-work balance. So in your life, how do you increase the ratio of life-work? And if life work is 100%, then you can work 100% of the time. Of course, you need to spend time with, the rice work. I don't like rice work. Rice work is working to earn your living, earn your food, rice living. But I think that it should be life work. If you just want to work as a part of your life mission, then everything is leisure in that sense.
So I have a question because Professor Landers is here. Professor Landers yesterday mentioned that we need to do something about the climate change. Can we shift policies? Can we transfer our direction? Yesterday, Professor Landers mentioned that there is an issue that nations are not able to reduce the CO2 emissions. So earlier, I think in the animation I mentioned that we will have more torrential rains because of the climate change. We need to do something about it. There is not a straightforward answer to it, maybe, but in Earth, in climate change countermeasures, is there anything that we can do for it? Because Professor Landers is here, can you comment on this? Yes, Japan, I think, should be the leadership in this, area, because we have the relationship with the U.S., the political relationship and so forth, the alternative energies and so forth. But I think this is the area where Japan could take the leadership in making some countermeasures, coming up with countermeasures, global warming. This climate change and global warming issues, I think, has been discussed 30 years and 40 years. It is moving one step ahead, but going back 2 steps and so forth. It has to do with economic and political issues and long-term viewpoint, short-term eyesight. So earlier we mentioned about elderly care. We have a new economy. It is out of the monetary economy. We need to think about technology advance and an ecosystem which is backed by the new technologies where we can take care of the elderly in different things. If I don't press the engine more, then there will be a token given to me. If you make that kind of mechanism, then we may be able to be advantageous. We need incentives to do this type of things. I think this field should be sexy. Yes, I think what mentioned earlier was how dare you, and you have this. That's the environmental issues, or else we will not be able to move forward. So doing something good for the earth should be sexy and good for you. Maybe incentive is required, and I think we should be leaders in this area. Yes, energy and environment. Sustainability, a city which have high intention toward that goal, I think is very important. It shouldn't be a big goal. I think there is a small city where there is a more energy efficient than others. I think there are leaderships, and I think good examples that Japan can show. There are so many sexy technologies Japan can show. That means that, for example, the water tanks and water tubes, if you have more of the mobilities, then it's more inefficient. So do we have more water cleaning technology? Yes, Japan has the best technology. For example, without the gas pipelines, you can use the polymers and encapsulated into the tank, then the propane weight could be 1/10 of the current one. You can just move it, and if the smart meters is not short, then you can just add some more of the methane gases to it. So that is, I think, less load for the cities, and we have this technology with us. I just wrote the book about this called Deep Load. So I think we are pretty much advanced in this area, and we do have the cities advanced with technologies, and we have depopulated area, and we're trying to cope with this and address this issue. I think we are probably a leading area in this area as well. So I think we have a role to play, I guess. Thank you very much indeed. Because of the time limitation, this is going to be probably the last question. This is, I think, addressed to Mr. Takahashi. You're building a lot of offices, but if the work style changes, what would happen to those office spaces? So, Mr. Takahashi, I think the value as a box or a value as a location would be changed dramatically. We have so many now vehicles and is owned by one person and driven by one person, but now there is a shift to Ubers, shared cars and so forth. So I think I dare to say that that location, that office, you need a mechanism or thing that would attract people to come. It is not a place where you have a desk and you just sit there and work. So we need to have that kind of mechanism. So at the outset, there was a question. I think 3 out of 4 people said that we want to have a satellite office. We want to work everywhere. And it's not something related to the many offices that you work. It's where you work. Yes, in the past you had a car for one family, a telephone for one person. That's different, you know. Maybe it's not an office building for one corporation, or maybe employee would have desk. That's not the case. But for future, we would share them. Yes, we have urban development going on around in Tokyo, every places, and we have so many office buildings being built. What do you think? If you have reason to attract people or reason to get together with people, yes, it's meaningful. If you want to help your friend, you're going to start new things, you would meet people. But if you're having just unusual work, then there's no necessity for you to come to the office. So I tell people to find reasons why you come to office. So I think it's a place where you show your skill that has not been shown in the past. So if you're going to do a side job, then you go to your office. I think that there should be some cooperation that is allowing such situations. So if things would change, all the designing will change. So the preposition or precondition of having an office will be changed. I think we can redesign working spaces where we would attract people to come and visit. Yes, yes, I think Tokyo, we need to be competitive. And I think what's the hashtag for all the cities I mentioned. But based on that, we need to have more people. That means that not is a population of the working population. I'm doing a satellite office. I have the university, and I work at Panasonic, and I'm advisor of several other companies. So I don't have a definite office. So I have so many workplaces. For example, if you have 5 places to work, that means that you have 5 locations. And you have 5, then it makes 10 locations. We have so many locations. And types of people you're meeting is different, and that makes different works. And work site is not an office. It's like WeWork, so shared office. It's going to be a mixed-use space. Especially from the offices, you would not create any pollution. So it's going to be shared use or mixed use. In that case, if you have so many office floor areas, I think you can solve this issue in a different way. There are so many questions that is raised to us. How do you think about Tokyo and so forth? This is the last question. How would you envision the future urban spaces of Tokyo? So I think each of you think about it, and if there is any keyword that you can bring this to us, we would like to ask whether the audience agrees to it or not. So starting from you, Hamura-san. WeWork and Mr. Takahashi is here, but I think urban space or city is going to be a WeWork. I don't know whether your company would exist at that time, but urban space or city could be a WeWork space. Well, I have the opposite opinion. Tokyo's uniqueness. If you're away from Tokyo, why do you work and live in Tokyo? We have a maximum number of Michelin stars restaurants here. This is edged culture that you can find in Tokyo. It is a love, the biased love, so to speak. So there is an edge culture there in Tokyo. So many different cultures being combined in the city. That's unique. And Tokyo is a pretty wide space, you know. Yes, somewhere in a region in Tokyo. And Mr. Takahashi, well, I've lived outside of Japan for so long, and returning to Japan, I came to be more aware of the goodness of Tokyo. I think there are many things that you are not aware of if you're living in this place. So if you have many visitors here and people, some of non-Japanese would be excited to see the vending machines, so many good vending machines around Tokyo. And we don't actually, we're not aware of it if you're living it. So new eyesight, new perspective toward Japan. And if you're in Tokyo, Tokyoite, you would be aware of new things with different ideas. We should make this attracting many different people from around the world together. Yes, I have to give an answer to it as well.
So currently there is an exhibition going on at the Mori Museum. So when technology advances, or namely AI, then the people's way of thinking is pre-anticipated by AI. So for example, when the sense of the person is, or feeling or mood of the person is sensed by AI, then automatically changes in the interior. So there are certain mechanisms in place. So that depending on the mood of the visitors coming into the space, then if there is any alterable the space available, then it's going to be interesting. So there are 4 topics we covered, and the keywords are I mean, when people say WeWork, I mean, it stimulates the idea of the physical WeWork, but that is not true. But my intention is like an AI or the various technologies. So everywhere you can, I mean, have a job. You can drink beer or the playground. So, and it is the place for the people to work like playing. It's a seamless space and community. So the Tokyo residents are not just limited for the daytime and nighttime the populations, but then someone who is living in Perth or somewhere else are also included as part of the Tokyo population. That's my definition. So, and it is the definition of a WeWork as WeWork. So now I would like to ask the audience to select the keywords that you support. The multiple choices is acceptable. All right, the result comes out. That's very quick. Top 1. Multiple choices, so I think many audience that chose multiple keywords. Community is a city itself becomes a WeWork or community. Yeah, I mean the 60% wins always. And I used to work at an ads agency as well. It's almost an equal for all concepts. So WeWork comes first, or Takahashi-san, Hamura-san. Any supplemental comments? Go ahead. Everything is possible, so context is more important. So rules of the city or foundation shall be revisited. The Ichi culture is, according to my own definition, it is the identity of Tokyo. By having identity, that is transformed, translated into attractiveness. So, I mean, that should be then a place of offering of values for letting the people to think, not just visiting, but come and live as well as work in Tokyo. Although the time is limited, but and we had an extensive discussions envisaging the future shape of the cities. And during the course of the transformation of the urban space and the behaviors and the changes and other aspects and changes as well. So each person has its own perspective. So then the choice would be different. But given the situation, we set the benchmark in 2035. It's a kind of sensitive timing, not too distant future, but not the immediate future either. So I'm supposed to make a closing remark. In 15 years' time, how we see the transformation of Tokyo, and the Tokyo in 15 years of now. So we covered many topics and the many perspectives shared. WeWork may be expanded further, but in 15 years' time, what would you envisage? Social condition may be different, From the year 2011, we started seeing the depopulation in Japan, but the metropolitan area, inclusive of the Tokyo metropolitan area, we still see the population increase. But looking ahead in a coming decade, what would you envisage in the attractiveness and issues or challenges? It's a kind of ad hoc question. In the year 2035, the greatest aspect of changing technology will be derived by the simultaneous translation service. So now, probably in 3 or 4 seconds, the delay, the message has been translated. But this is going to be on a real-time basis. So no friction at all, but there will be the communication available regardless of nationalities. By doing so, then probably there will be the lowering the price for the virtual reality. So the visual and audio will be borderless. Then the remaining sense will be nose and tongue. Probably the gourmet culture will be the good remaining aspect. Oh, that has already been covered. Information or evolution will be probably the greatest part. Looking back on 15 years ago, back in 2004, now that was the time I engaged in iMode. So during the course of the 15 years, we see the great evolution. So the UI change. When we think about it, then probably there will be that brand new, the different UI. And behind that, now there will be AI. So the means of communication will be changing. So in terms of the communication, English isn't fully understood. I'm hesitant to say, although there are the physical the interpreters, but there will be the multilingual simultaneous interpretation will be available. Then the language barrier is no longer a weakness for the Japanese people. I think that would be the future in 15 years' time. AI will be the great impacting factor in the coming 15 years. Of course, language, there will be less and less borders. But without language, what will be the means of the communication remain? Probably the art. Art will be the common language among people. So the Tokyo's hashtag, not so many people will clearly say art will be attached to the Tokyo. But the art, the aspect will be the quite important identity for Tokyo. Losing the jobs through the development of AI. That has been demonstrated by the emergence of the AlphaGo or something. Many people say that, but many people see and watch the people playing sports because of the human involvement. So I deny the English, but if someone speaks English, I think that would be more in the edgy part. So the English, I don't say the English is useless, but the artistic or the creative feature of the human being will be more and more enhanced. One of the questions, how to assign hashtag for Tokyo? That was a question. So what will be your response? Tokyo is too wide, in my understanding. Where about in Tokyo? Are we going to focus on the why the people are there and why people gather in Tokyo? So the city's existence is what for, and what sort of the aspiration that the city provide. Human-centric approach or the community-centric approach is an important. So that this should be the starting point in forming a city. For example, in Kumamoto, Kumamon is a hashtag, the character. What is the strength of Kumamon? The Kumamon discovered or they introduced some of the local attractions of Kumamoto Prefecture by spending 12 to 24 months in advance of the official release as a prefecture character. So the exploring identity, how to engage in the exploration of the identity is the key. So for example, when it comes to the city of Funabashi, there's a character called Funashi available. In the past, there used to be the creature character. But before the emergence or the introduction of Nakumamon, I think the significance of Kumamon is that Kumamon is such a beloved character by the local the people in Kumamoto. Looking ahead, when we talk about the future, anything is not possible not to be discussed. So, how the people feel happiness in the future. That's a rather simple question. What will be your response in the year 2035? Will the people be happy, or are you happy now? Of course, I can't say no.
I think people have a bias toward being happy and being normal. So I think if there's no large tragedy, I think most people would be happy. So I think people will be happy in 2035. I think, of course, yes. So you said that only 6% of people in Japan find meaning in their work. And I remember that a TV person called Tamori, he said that the people nowadays are living in such a difficult environment because in the past, depending on which family or which city you were born to, decided which occupation you have, or depending on which university you attended or which company you worked for first, your life was basically set. But nowadays, people have to decide everything for themselves. So that's why he said that people nowadays have such a hard time. But conversely, I think that's why people are so happy. For me, free, it means that people can decide which direction they go to. My father was a doctor and he was a physician and had his own practice, and the patients were happy because of the medical service that he provided. So observing him, I decided to do what I can to make people happy, and because I choose, I'm happy. And so for me, it's not just about the city's hashtag, but the individual's hashtag. I think the history of humanity is the obtaining freedom and being liberalized, and that is why technology advanced. But when you have too many choices, sometimes it's difficult to choose so many options, but it's up to the individual. Technology is there to give people freedom, and it will continue to evolve. So freedom being source of unhappiness, that's very difficult. For example, people say it's difficult to fall in love these days, but actually, compared to the past, people have so many encounters. You can meet the opposite sex anywhere, but now, because it's so free, it's sometimes constraining. So time is almost up. So for the future of Tokyo, can you just say one final comment about the future of Tokyo? So it links to actually the previous discussion. I think pride is very important. Sometimes being proud sounds negative, but I think having a pride is very important. Whether it's a happiness or how you live, I think we need to be proud of ourselves. And ultimately, I hope that the people who come to Tokyo can feel a sense of pride in the city. And also as individuals, if we can live in a way that we are proud of ourselves, then I think it's a meaningful life. Yes, I think pride is a sense of aesthetics to oneself. What is Tokyo is a question of accountability. And accountability is not something that somebody else can decide for you, but it's something that each person decides for ourselves. And then when such people come together, then as a city, accountability arises. I do want people who live in Tokyo to have a sense of pride and have a sense of accountability and be able to say that Tokyo is this city. And I think that such a sense should be strengthened in Tokyo. I think that the diversity of Tokyo, the multifacetedness of Tokyo, or the depth of Tokyo, I think the three of us have a different concept of Tokyo. And if everybody can say with confidence and pride that this is Tokyo for me, and if it is associated with oneself, then I think that's very positive. I think your three answers were quite similar in that sense. In spite of this short period of time, I'm very grateful for your participation. Lastly, let's close with a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you very much for the